Hi everyone, this is Chris West from House Calls Vermont, and this week's House Call Vermont is not live. We were doing a non-live version this week. We'll be back to live next week, and as we both take vacations, there will be weeks when we don't have a live call-in, so please check your schedule. And if you end up coming along on Tuesday evening at 7 and we're not live, we just ask for a bit of understanding and latitude. Today's episode, we're going to be looking at 3 video bits. One is an update from 10 Old Stage. That's a deep energy retrofit that I'm doing over in Essex, and specifically we'll be talking about the construction and how we're moving forward on floors and how the walls were built and what we're doing for insulation and where we're putting that insulation. We're also getting a quick drop-in piece by Steve Spatz. I interviewed Steve Spatz about the Home Performance with Energy Star program, which is also known as the Energy Audit program, and where things are at with that for right now with the Efficiency Vermont programs and the partners that we work with and Efficiency Vermont works with the Energy Excellence Network. And finally, we have a video piece of an energy audit that Jim and I did last week at a house in Montpelier. A friend of mine, Greg Whitchurch, who is an owner of a passive house, one of the passive houses that have been built here in Vermont. His son Greg has a house in Saint Johnsbury, and we went over to do an energy audit on that, and we'll dig deeper into that as you see the video. So if you have any questions that we're not answering during the video, or if you have questions that you'd like to send us to ask about a DIY project you're doing, or if you are building a new house and you want to get our advice on what your architect and or builder is saying as far as assemblies, as far as layout for your house, windows, any type of thing like that, give us an email or send us an email to housecallsvt@gmail.com. That email is at the bottom of all of the various bits during the various videos, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. where we will be talking about some energy audits that we're doing this weekend, and also about our recent performance or showing on a Vermont edition for VPR. So I hope you all have a great week. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe and like, and we're growing the House Calls Vermont family here online on our YouTube channel. So until next week, this is Chris West. Enjoy the rest of the show. Hey, it's Chris West from House Calls Vermont, and we're here at 10 Old Stage for the weekly update on what's going on with the renovation of this old farmhouse from the 1830s. And last week we were showing you that we were putting in some of these supporting beams here to support the floor because there was a dip in the floor, right? That dip was happening, and the reason it's happening is because the floor upstairs was unsupported and is these 3-inch rough sawn planks. So if we look up here, here's my hand for reference. This is 3 inches, and these planks run from one side all the way to the other side. That's a span of 25 feet. So it was unsupported, and we were getting a sag in the middle, in the middle. So in order to take the sag out and just make the floors much more sturdy, we were putting in some supporting beams, and I showed you that a couple weeks ago. These are the supporting beams we put in earlier, and here's the new one. We put a pocket in next to the chimney, and then the last one is this one, which runs from this wall all the way across to that pocket next to the door. And with that, we have a really sturdy support underneath these planks. Now, the beams are not fully supporting all the weight because it doesn't have to. The boards are doing that. And the way that the wall is built, if we look at this wall here, the wall is got a shelf out here. So in the basement, there's a shelf that comes almost a foot, and then it goes up, and up here it steps out again. So we've got 2 steps. We've got the basement wall with a step, and then it moves out, and then it goes up, and then it moves out, and that's how these planks are done. And you can see that very clearly here where that step is, and that piece of wood is the top of that. And we have the same thing in the basement. So let me just show you that in a hole. So if I'm standing up here and we look here, you can see that the basement wall starts right there. So it's about a foot of the floor from the on the first floor, which is also 3-inch sawn planks, which you can see there. And those are also supported. I showed you that in earlier videos, that downstairs we have the same kind of supporting beams running on, and it's made the whole building much more sturdy. The next step here is to find out where this supporting piece, so we have this piece of wood here, and in some places that piece of wood has rotted out, and that has happened really just in one place, and that's right here in the corner. For some reason, and you can even see the water damage on the wood here, there was a leak in the roof here, which also ended up rotting the beam that used to be up there. I think I have images of that. But let's go upstairs and just take a quick look at the floor there and figure out how we're gonna work this out, because this is the master, and I can see somebody putting their bed in front of this beautiful big window, and here you can see very clearly we have quite a bit. You can also see that step out, right? That's pretty nice. What we're seeing here, the step out really only goes to here, because this is just the trim on top of the window. You can see it more clearly here, right? We've got about 3.5 inches. So the beam, that piece of wood, that seat I would call it, that the beams sit on, so there's a plank running along the wall, and then the floor planks sit like this, that is rotten in these last 4 feet, as are the actual floor planks. They're not so rotten they're gonna fall out, but they're also not so rotten that I'd feel comfortable with someone putting a heavy bed on there, and then, you know, themselves and their, you know, imagine getting into bed with your spouse and your kids, and you've got, you know, 700-800 pounds there. So how do we, without replacing these particular floorboards and without adding some epoxy, which is not that structural, what I figured is if I take a sheet of steel, like a 3/8 steel, 4 foot long by 2 feet wide, then we'd have a 2 feet wide, 4 foot long piece of steel, which goes into really good solid wood, and that will then go on top of the replacement piece of seating that we're having. And I'll show you that again from downstairs, just so you get the idea. So we've got this seat here, right? This piece of wood right there, and that piece of wood, it stops at the doorway here. You can see that rounding. Now on this side, that piece of wood is not at all rotten from this board on. So what I'm going to do is get that piece of steel and attach it here on the underside, bolt that to it, so that it will have some really good strong strength, and possibly even a plate on the top. We'll see. The idea is that the top will just be the actual floor, but we have to see how sandable it is. Maybe on the top we'll put some epoxy in those just to make them sandable for the floor. Not a big fan of epoxy just because it's you know, pretty nasty stuff for the environment, but in this case a little bit maybe will be used. So that's the plan for the inside, and that's going really well. And we've taken up the rest of the floor here, and we have those floorboards stacked here. Now these floorboards, which were just pulled up, have been down for, you know, 140 years, or 170, depending on when they were put down. And of course they have lead paint on the top. So the idea here is this is lead paint, but the back of it is not lead paint. So we're going to pull all of the, let me just show that. So that is not. So what we're going to do is we're going to de-nail them, and then we're going to run them through a planer and put them back down as flooring, and that encapsulates the lead low, right, between the subfloor and the floor. So that's a long-term process, and that's definitely finish work, and we're nowhere near finished work. So the next thing in there is Sebastian. Hello, Sebastian. And Sebastian is in the process of pulling off some plywood so that we can get to the framing. And the reason we need to get the framing is because we want the insulation that's going to be on the brick to go past the brick building. And so in here you can see that the brick building has a post next to it. That post is the beginning of the garage, and so we want to have the insulation run along this plane from the brick to the wood structure as a continuous insulation, but also air sealing. So let's take a look just outside at what we're planning to do to the outside. I left my sunglasses inside, which is horrible for me. And here's Jack Leach again. And so Jack is working on this sheathing. This is going to be, right now it's not yet affixed to the wall. It's just hanging on these Simpsons strips. But this is all going to be bolted to the wall. It's all hanging off of the structure, but this will actually be sitting flat against here once we get it affixed. And then on top of that, we have our 5.5 inches of insulation and then double strapping, and that's the final treatment on the outside. But when we get to the end of the brick over here, we have a garage, and that's what Sabah's working on. We're going to cut away just a 8-inch strip along there so that the plywood can go past that, so we can continue the continuous insulation to the other building. And that's what we're doing today. It's a good day. We're getting a lot of work done. I think some people even call it a wonderful day. So I don't know who that might be, because people like sunlight, I guess, and warm weather. It's been in the 60s and it's very sunny, so people really enjoy that. There's Jack. Don't say no, Jack.
What's that?
Don't say no.
All right.
And the daylilies are about to bloom, so that's really nice. You got these extremely bursting. So in a couple of days we'll have beautiful daylilies as well. So that's the report from 10 Old Stage for this week. And oh, just one last thing. This is the insulation that I got. This is 5.5 inches of used polyiso. This is factory seconds. This is insulation that would have been thrown into a landfill. So by buying it, we're rescuing it from being in a landfill, and we're putting it on the walls. Okay, that's it from 10 Old Stage for this week. Until next week. Hi, this is Chris West from House Calls Vermont, and as usual, we're going to have a quick chat with Steve Spatz from Efficiency Vermont. This week we'll be chatting about the Home Performance with Energy Star program, also known as Energy Audits. Hey Steve, how's it going?
Good, Chris. How are you? Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you too, and I'm doing pretty well, thank you. It's end of graduation time, and I finally have my second one graduated, so
that's big.
It's a big one.
Wow, excellent. Congrats.
Yeah, exciting. He's going on a gap year, so I get a year to collect the money I need to put him through college.
Put him to work.
Yeah, exactly. So let's chat a little about the Home Performance with Energy Star program. Why don't you just explain, what that is in broad terms, and then get down to how people can find contractors and what incentives are available.
Sure. So Home Performance with Energy Star program is a program that addresses overall building comfort, durability, health and safety, and energy efficiency under the brand of Energy Star. And so this is a program that is owned or managed by the Department of Energy with the Energy Star brand. And in Vermont, Efficiency Vermont runs the Home Performance with Energy Star program on behalf of the Department of Energy. So we're an administrator of that program here in Vermont. And what makes the Home Performance with Energy Star program unique is that it is a contractor base that is specifically trained in building science and how to appropriately analyze and evaluate buildings of their current conditions for overall energy efficiency, for insulation, levels of insulation and performance, building durability issues such as how moisture moves through buildings, areas where potential damage could occur because of gaps in performance in different aspects of the building envelope. And they also are tasked with really paying attention to health and safety issues as well in buildings, such as combustion safety, water and management, moisture management, indoor air
Yeah,
quality.
combustion, just to be clear, combustion safety is your boiler, your water heater, anything that
Yep.
is going to be burning a fuel in your house and maybe taking air from the house to make that happen, or at
Yep.
the very least pushing bad stuff out.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much almost all of us live in a building that has some type of fuel burning appliance in it, and it's crucial to make sure that appliance, that equipment, is burning the fuel appropriately and making sure that the byproducts of that fuel combustion are getting out of the house effectively and safely. And both from just how your house and how that building is as it stands right now, and then also in light of making improvements on that building as well, things that you can do to really lower your energy bills, increase comfort, improve building durability by improving air leakage rates through the building and insulation levels. Changing those dynamics can change the dynamic of how some of your combustion equipment can
So
work.
you could have a house that before you have work done is not causing, say, a water heater to backdraft, and because the work you do makes the house tighter, there's a chance that after that work is done, that those appliances are not performing the way they were and may actually
Yeah.
be causing issues.
Yeah, and those appliances were probably working on the margins previously, but you just had conditions occurring in your house that kind of masked the potential issues that were there. So,
Right.
these contractors, because of the training that they receive and the level of ongoing continuing education and training and oversight that they receive as well, those are the kinds of things that make them stand out to some extent amongst other contractors who could similarly do insulation or air sealing work in a building, but not be aware of those concerns or issues around combustion safety and other indoor pollutants and contaminants like this contractor base specifically is.
Right. So
So
yeah.
I
So
was
if
going to say,
someone is going to look for someone who has those qualifications,
mhm.
where's the best way for them to find those people?
So because of the fact that the contractors that participate in this program with us under the Energy Star brand are specifically trained and certified, they're certified by an agency that requires that they maintain that certification every 3 years. They have to recertify essentially. And this is a high level of oversight and accountability with this contractor base. And by way of their association with us, they are the access point for consumers in Vermont to access incentives and rebates from Efficiency Vermont to help bring down some of those costs for air sealing and insulation. So if it's work that you've been thinking about, you want to just get a general idea about what's going on in your home and bring one of these professionals in to kind of just take a look and give their expert opinion on the conditions you have in your building and potential opportunities for improvement. You can seek them out through Efficiency Vermont's website by going to efficiencyvermont.com, and we have a Find a Contractor link or portal on the website. And in there, you can search for the contractor type that you're looking for. You can search under home performance contractors. You can search under insulation and air sealing for residential homes and put in your zip code, and that will give you the results of contractors that are in your area and in your radius, essentially, to where you live.
Now, if I understand it correctly, there's also a caveat in there, which is that if you are a customer of Vermont Gas or Burlington Electric, that because of the way the ratepayer funds are distributed, that if you are getting services from either BED or Vermont Gas, they have a parallel program. Can you
Mhm.
explain how that works?
Sure. Burlington Electric has their own weatherization program, so they can be contacted directly if you're a customer of Burlington Electric. And they offer incentives and rebates as well, but they do not go through Efficiency Vermont. It's not a Efficiency Vermont affiliated program. Vermont Gas Systems has programs as well for high-use customers, and then customers that are not considered quote-unquote high-use. They use the same contractor network that Efficiency Vermont does, so you can still work with Efficiency Vermont's contractor network and go through the Vermont Gas program as well. So if you are a customer of either of those two utilities, then you can reach out to the utility directly as well and get more information, because there could be some other unique options available through those two utilities as well.
And one more point is, if you are someone who it uses LIHEAP or one of the other assistance programs, you can actually make an application to one of the weather resistance programs throughout the state and get all of that done by your regional WAP, and not go. This is really for what we call market rate housing.
Correct.
Yeah. So if I were to be a person and I apply to have someone come and do an audit, and someone comes and does an audit, what are the incentives that are available, and how are those divvied up?
Sure. So homeowners have access to incentives from Efficiency Vermont that'll cover half of the project cost, half of the eligible insulation and air sealing measure costs that would be installed in their home. And we'll cover that cost up to a cap of either $3,000 or $1,000, depending on household income. So the cap to $3,000 is available for moderate income households. And you'll see on our website, when you look up the information about the incentives, there is a table there that'll show what household income limits are per county in Vermont, and what those income thresholds are to achieve the $3,000 or $1,000 cap in incentives.
Great. That's a lot in a little bit of time and a little bit of space there, but I think we covered it all. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the Home Performance with Energy Star program?
Just this has been a program that Efficiency Vermont has run for a long time now, pushing a couple decades here, and the work continues to grow. The state of Vermont is reinvesting in weatherization as a path towards meeting our climate goals, and also just reducing the overall energy burden to Vermonters. So the program continues forward. It's a great contractor base and network that works in the program. And contractors are steadily busy right now, so we encourage that you seek out a few different contractors if you're interested in looking at your options. And as long as you're okay with waiting for a little bit, you can plan ahead a little bit, then you'll be able to find a contractor to work with. So.
Yeah, we get most of our calls after the first cold day, right? It's
right.
November 15th.
Now is not the time people are typically thinking about this stuff.
No,
but.
very, very true. Great. And just as always, where can they go to get that information, Steve?
You can go to efficiencyvermont.com. You can find everything you need there.
Great. Well, Steve, thanks again for stopping by and giving us some information about Efficiency Vermont and their programs. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, Chris.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, it's Chris from House Call Vermont, and we're here in Montpelier looking at a house built in the 1800s. Specific date is kind of hard to tell. Could be as early as the 1850s, but certainly not after the 1880s. And this is the house. It is a house that has regular rough sawn 2x4 walls, and they're back plastered, which means that as an air sealing technique, when they were building the house, they put a wall on the outside and they put a wall in between the walls to try to reduce air leakage, which is a system that works. Unfortunately, it's not very effective. The house has been gotten a weatherization, been through a weatherization program, one of the WAPs, about 11 years ago, and we're here to look at how things are going. So we've done a walk around and looked at a lot of the exterior, which shows a lot about the durability of the building. One of the things the client has asked us to look at is encapsulating the outside paint, because it's lead paint and they would prefer to encapsulate it than to remove it, because it can also make the outside of the building air sealed and also include encapsulation, so they could build to the outside, encapsulate the lead paint inside some kind of insulation package, and have a different exterior put on. So we can see the lead paint pretty clearly. We call this crazing. There are also some durability issues, which I can show you over here. Or we get onto the inside of this chimney. We've got quite a lot of wood rot here. And the connection of a chimney to the building is often a pretty bad place. We have two sections of the building. One is this part, and you can see the change in the roof line shows the two parts of the building, a back part and a front part, and they each have separate attics. The attics have had insulation installed, but there was no air sealing done, so it's not doing a great job at insulating, because of course the stack effect can push through loose fill cellulose, or at least the stack effect allows for warm moist air to push through. So that's going to be one of our recommendations. There's no insulation on the inside of the downstairs brick. The basement here, the wall is made of brick, and there's been some movement here that we're going to want the homeowner to look at on this bump out. However, the brick is not the original wall. It seems as if at some point in the past the roof, the building was raised, the old rubble wall was built on top of with a brick wall. That's this, and that goes all the way inside to outside. Oftentimes, as we've shown in the past, when we're looking at a rubble wall, sometimes there's brick on the inside of a rubble wall, and that brick on the inside was actually a type of air sealing and is itself not structural. That's not the case here. They raised the building and built a structural brick wall on top of the rubble wall, and then set the building back down, possibly replacing some of the original 8x8s with 6x6s, which is hi.
Cameras.
Ooh, cameras, recordings.
Now I see the studs that are yellow and the cavities are dark. That's what I would expect to see on a day like today.
So Jim is in the process of doing a infrared analysis. We didn't blower door this building because it has vermiculite in the walls, and we'll explain why at some point. But here we are. Do you guys mind being on video?
Oh, sure.
Okay. This is the homeowner, Jeff, and his dad, Greg, who's a friend of mine from Passive House Circles, the Whitchurches, and we are here in Montpelier, and we're doing the walk around.
Saint Johnsbury.
I'm sorry, did I say Montpelier? I mean St. Johnsbury.
This is the other capital of Vermont.
Burlington and
The east side capital.
there you go.
And so if we look over here, we see those cavities are more so cooler in appearance than what we saw over there. And both of them have the same solar drive right now.
Right, the same amount of heat coming through because of the sun.
Yeah, but right there I'm seeing just the opposite. So I'm seeing that bay there above the window header. They might not have drilled through there because they couldn't have gotten access.
Right, again, we're looking at
Yeah, that's
where
that's
ceiling
under the porch, so it's going to have a different heat. Yep. Now I didn't listen when we came in. We usually like to note when the compressor on a refrigerator is on, and if we hear it turn off while we're still there. If it's running the whole time, then you have a refrigerant problem in your refrigerator.
Yeah.
And
So sometimes when the insulators are insulating these older buildings, they find different type of fire blocking or different supports in the walls. And if they're only doing a top hole, maybe, and a bottom hole, but they get up there and they don't, and there's an intermediate blocking, they may not go after it. They just fill what they can. So when I look at things like this, and I start to see even, and then all of a sudden warmer, warmer,
Yeah.
warmer, and then you know, it gets to be a little more even as we go over here. You know, so it looks like these areas here were just missed.
Right, above the window.
Right.
Those small
And
bays
the
above
side,
the window.
and the side as well. So what they might have done is they were measuring the bays,
Right.
but they didn't make sure their math didn't work out, whatever, so they may
Right.
not have made a penetration into this bay and it's empty, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Whereas John Snell says, it appears as if.
You never know until you open it.
Casting no aspersions.
Right.
No, you're good. Just act normally.
Noticeably cooler in this room.
Well, it looks like
The windows are, shades are pulled.
So you still have this penetration for the chimney and that wonderful metal bestis outside
Installation
thing,
job.
but you're not using it.
No, yeah. Well,
Right.
It was put in before.
She didn't
this
need it
was
in there.
rented.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and she wants the furnace. That's why the furnace is still.
And she
hooked
wanted
up to
this
this
space.
house.
So I built a hearth and everything here, and
Right, I see the surround and everything.
Here and
We took down a big tree out there. I was up in the top of it, turning the top off in
Yeah.
order to put that
Yeah.
chimney up.
yeah.
I think the order here, I am seeing sun warming here.
I'm interested in seeing what it
So
says about the
because of
slopes
pattern that
upstairs.
it is, it's more so the heat for the window going up,
Right.
just on the surface of
On
the
the
driveway.
surface, right.
Definitely, you see what's upstairs.
I will be back.
So how does it compare with what you would have expected?
That's the wrong question. We don't know what to expect in these houses. What we're
Well, I mean, you know that
Yeah.
the state came in,
yep.
dense pack.
We're
the
not.
walls.
We're not. So, be right back. I brought it with me.
I know, but
I brought an electric car here for you guys to look at it.
Always selling. Always selling. I already have an electric car. It's just not this one. I have a Leaf.
Oh yeah. I didn't bring the leaf because I figured we had one.
Has this got a better range than the Leaf, or?
64 kilowatt battery.
Oh, nice.
250, 300 miles.
The famous.
well, there should be
Here.
a space.
Well, we were just up there.
What?
What's in
In the
between
slope.
this face of the ceiling here and the roof?
So what I saw there was the prop event, and under the prop event was insulation. So it seems, and I didn't drill down more than, a couple inches, but the prop events are clear all the way down to the soffit, but there's no soffit vent, which is we discussed before.
Right. But just based on what we're seeing here, it looks as if that's not really being insulated at
It's
all.
it's
compared
possible.
To the flat part of the roof.
Right, no, and that would make sense because shoving the prop events down does not necessarily mean you're getting good coverage under the prop event, right?
Right, but wouldn't there be insulation on this surface?
You'd hope, but I have no way of. We didn't check that. You'd
Right.
have to open up. We could go down, pull a bunch of cellulose to the side, and see what's going on under it. But the infrared camera's
I was
telling
going to
us
say doesn't matter.
No,
regardless.
it
It's
show
not
it-
being insulated.
that's
well.
right. It's not well
Whether
insulated.
there's a bunch there, or nothing there,
Right.
it's not good.
What you're
And-
probably having is just trickle down, right? Whatever the fill settles into
What were
there.
the framing member sizes up there for the slopes? Do you remember? 2x6s?
I think they're
2x4s?
2x6s.
I think they are too.
Which
Yeah.
is not a lot of insulation opportunity anyway. So let's say it's not filled appropriately, it's still kind of a
Right.
vacuous cavity.
I mean,
With direct solar drive.
you could, dense pack those. You can't dense pack against prop events.
Exactly.
They just collapse. They're not strong enough for that.
We need something to dense pack against.
Right, exactly, and that's
Lawn strips.
that's what we do. What the way we would, if you wanted to fix that, the way we do it is we'd rip the inside out, put in rough saw. Sawing a 2x4.5. Put an 1.5 cleat on either side of every bay and put a luan,
Right.
1/4 inch
Then
luan.
dense pack that.
Yeah, and then you can dense pack against that. It's a messy job.
Yeah, I've seen
So here's
But
pretty-
Efficiency Vermont has been telling people for years just dense pack the whole thing, and we're completely against that. That's a bad idea.
Here's a very telling photo, and it's the fact that it looks like these walls are performing definitely better than the roof assembly.
Yeah.
Let me see.
What are the temperature differences?
I'll tell you in just a second.
78
Question.
versus.
I just go back. Okay, so we've got 78 versus 76. It's not a huge differential on the surface here, but up above it's definitely more. Yeah, so these slopes are pretty warm. And then it really stops at that line, at that demarcation point.
So there's nothing in the slopes. It's just, yep,
That's what we
Nothing
saw
is
out there,
performing
too,
more.
huh?
yep. And that it's the same on either side is pretty common. As a matter of fact, there are some houses we're in where we don't have access to another part of the roof because there's no hatch or whatever, and we just assume the person did all the same work, they're going to do the same thing.
Right.
So you can't be 100% sure, but we say, okay, if you do put a hatch, then we can confirm that we think our suspicion. But yeah, this is not uncommon.
Yeah.
So these aren't knee walls, they're like we talked about. They're just the outside wall.
Yeah.
Did you notice that the plane of this wall is different in the
Yep.
next two rooms as well, even in that
I did
little
not see
closet and
No, I didn't see that.
yeah. And this, I think this slope is actually different too. But this is but the back wall.
So if we were to look at where that roof anomaly is, it's over here. It's in this area, right? Where we have the weird thing popping up on the roof outside. That'd be in this area.
No, I thought that was.
the first one,
Yep, over
one
here.
is over here. The other
And one is here-ish.
I think it was near that other chimney, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was a couple of feet this way of that chimney, and that chimney is not very far from here,
You're
right?
right.
So it could be this wall or that wall, whatever, but it seems like that's where it's happening. Okay.
So there's a lot of buckling in this room too. When we skim coated that
And the
whole
bump
wall
out,
in here,
yeah.
you could tell where the old roof line was.
Yeah.
A lot of that had been shifting, and the drywall was cracked there. And you don't really see that as much now because we filled it all in.
Right. Well, maybe in another couple of years, if there's some more movement, you'll see it again.
But I just wonder if that.
But that's just
with that buckling of the plywood up on the roof.
Could be. It's the other side, so I don't know how much effect it would have on this side. By the way, that little roof thing that's sticking out, you could take that off if you wanted to. It's not doing
The little
anything.
strips of roof on either side of this.
Yeah, exactly. It's not doing anything.
Yeah, it is. It's pumping water into that room upstairs.
Right. It is. It does have an effect, but it's not doing anything we consider to be beneficial.
It's starting below it.
Upstairs here,
Yes, agreed.
Is it aesthetic at all? Like, would it look funny without it?
it would look different, but I don't think it's so aesthetic. I mean, I make fun of people who put dormers on their houses all the time, and they continue that roof. I was like, why? Because it looks good. Okay, fine. All kinds of things look good.
Dormers are dumb.
Dormers are dumb is one of my personal
But
passions.
slope roofs like that dumb?
Yes.
Dormers are smart, actually.
No. Dormers are retrofits to badly designed houses
Right,
like this.
exactly. Right.
But people build brand new houses with dormers
Yeah,
because they want it to look like
exactly.
this. And that's my problem.
I agree with you there.
That's
So
my
this looks pretty vacuous here.
Really?
Yeah, just right in this area here.
What the hell, guys?
We identify the problems. We don't create them.
Yeah, we don't call.
No, we're blaming the messenger.
This is gorgeous too. Look at that. Yep, love that.
Blame the guy with the heat, with the thermal camera.
Yeah, thanks.
So here's where you can see that roof line you're talking about. Just that right there. And that's what I mean. If you look out the window here, that little bit of
Oh yeah.
roof, that's just detail. It's not helping at all. It doesn't shed water better, or you're even saying it shed water the wrong way, right?
Totally does. Yeah. But I think you can see that that wall in that closet is different plane than this.
Oh yeah.
And I think
Wow,
Hey,
Jeff.
Chris, look at this one. Jeff.
Oh boy.
So
And
that's-
we're not driving any air.
Yeah, that's just the fact there's no insulation. So from
You can see the
Here-
insulation going down.
there's just no insulation. Well, it's settling.
Yeah, it's
I was
settled.
gonna say, yeah. That does look like settling, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then here you can count all the plaster lap if you wanted to.
So this is the other part of the house, so that this has a different condition, the 2-foot top of the, before we get to the slope, and this is a 4-foot. It's just a different roof line.
It's
Yeah.
equal opportunity, same thing over here.
Yeah, I see that.
Dormers are done. There you go. Proof.
What's up?
It's a dormer.
Right.
And they did
Not a problem.
Oh, that's not mine here.
I was interested to see if anything special was going on with this skip.
Check out the thermoformer.
I haven't seen, is it attached to the iPad? And
It's attached to his hand.
Oh, really? Ooh. What does this do?
Go. I'm just recording. I'm just
Normal.
making. I'm taking a picture of Jerry. Who was that? Was that you, Greg?
Oh, that
1994, Grateful Dead?
They're down.
Was that you?
I was there.
Oh, awesome.
Well, I wasn't in New York. I saw them in Phoenix that year.
Oh, okay.
But that's my son's poster.
Ah, nice.
Connective issue with the roof lines that they kind of missed.
And the Aboriginal lizard guy.
Yep.
Can you rent those?
If
You can tell us you want to borrow it, and we'll rent it to you. But
And they have a little. I've got one on my vehicle.
Worked for this company for a while. We had a FLIR thermal imager on a drone, and we were.
oh, nice.
I brought that home and did a lot of shots of the
Of the top
house
of the
actually
house.
from above.
The IR technology has gotten so good. That camera that Jim has is 8 years old. It was a $12,000 camera when he bought it. It's super sensitive, and now for $500 you can get something just as good,
Really?
and not quite as good, but
But they don't
good
actually
enough
tell you
that
the
you and I
temperature,
wouldn't
right?
care. Yeah.
They actually do give you a real temperature.
Yeah, the temperature is like with any infrared. It's a dot with a spread. The
exactly.
further away you are, the more of the area you're getting average of. So the
Right.
closer you are, the
Right.
the more zero.
But I know
you
some
are.
of the more inexpensive ones was a relative temperature. You didn't get an absolute temperature.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, this is much hotter than here.
Right.
You
right.
get the
And
same
you need to know what
color
one of them
layout,
is.
but
Right.
you wouldn't get the actual number.
Yep. Are you giving me this?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to make the Velcro stick.
Velcro's more important. I get it. It's good. So that was the infrared test. I'm just going to go downstairs for a second and take a look at the basement again, because I want to show you the inside of that brick. So here's the original rubble wall, and they raised the building and put this brick on top of it. Fantastic work, hard work.
Yeah, but I want to look at that.
From a long time ago. And those are the 6x6s. That's the beam that probably replaced an 8x8 beam that was originally there.
Did I get you guys something to drink or?
I got plenty myself, but thank you.
No, I'm good. I think Jim's gonna buy me lunch when we leave.
Really?
Well,
Did you say
whoever's
you
gonna
were
pay
all
for it.
I drove. I paid for gas. Oh my gosh, this is an expensive trip.
I'll buy you guys lunch.
Jeff will buy us lunch.
Yeah, let's go to lunch.
This is a neat look at the degradation from inside to outside.
All right, we call
me
it
find that.
the gradation from.
Well, you have this
code.
even in, because basically you can see that's where the warmer temperatures are,
Mhm.
and then the soils are here, and then it drops
Yeah.
down.
So what's the?
That's the heating duct.
Oh, I
There's
was
this-
thinking that was a seal on the. Right.
And I see that you're using duct tape on your ducts,
Yeah.
which
Of
is
course.
not.
There's no K in duct tape.
That's right. The Mighty Ducks.
It's a little warm outlet, isn't it?
The outlet's warm.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's, those GFIs do that all
Yep.
the time.
Yeah.
When I see it
Isn't that
get
amazing?
way above 100, then I get concerned. But this is still below 100. It just
Yeah.
shows warm.
I know, I hate that.
So 3 chimneys in the building altogether.
Forget this plug.
No, it's fine.
At least get a membrane on there right away to keep weather out.
Okay, so I might want to work in small if I'm doing it myself.
Oh, yeah.
I
And
want
then
to work
like
in
in
smaller
corners.
sections.
Yeah, when we do houses, I've done this before, where they had me do one side of the house, and they had the money to do the Sims residence. Had me do the rest of the house the next year, so to future-proof, you take enough of the membrane and you backfold it underneath the trim.
Exactly,
And then the next
and when
year
you come
open
up-
it back up, and
Yeah,
you take it
but you
rest.
would want to do like a wall if at
Yes.
all
Oh,
possible.
definitely.
Right.
The whole side,
If possible,
Yeah.
right? Just
We
for
did that at that multifamily, passive house multifamily in Hanover. Remember they had 43 units and they added 18 more, and they rolled all the siding.
yep,
They used CertainTeed.
Right.
Siding. They rolled it up, packed it, waited for
and
the
waited for that.
season,
Yep.
And then just unrolled it.
and then unrolled it. Yeah,
Yeah, that was Summer Park.
Summer Park.
Yeah, they're just finishing up on that second phase. So
We
that's
wrote the article on that.
awesome. It was a fun project. I feel very fortunate for
Which
being
is
able to be a
Yeah.
member of that team. Yep. So I think that's it for now. It takes me about 2 weeks to get the report together.
2 weeks.
Water finds a way everywhere.
And I would strongly consider, if you're going to be doing such a retrofit like this, is now indoor air quality becomes such a higher priority.
Yeah.
Okay, because you want to seal all this other stuff off, but then the dynamics of this house have changed once again. So you want to make sure probably an ERV would be what I would recommend in this case.
A what?
An energy recovery ventilator or enthalpy recovery ventilator, and that just basically you're going to get about a 90% efficiency as it pushes the air outside and brings new air in. It goes across
Heat exchanger.
heat exchanger. Thank you. It goes across the heat exchanger and it recaptures that energy and that air.
It's like the serve that your grandparents have in
Right.
their house,
Oh,
at
perfect.
your dad's. Yeah.
Yep. So I would definitely say that becomes a bigger priority.
And
Now,
we would both recommend that you do indoor air quality testing.
Yes.
Starting whenever. We are real big fans of something called the IQ Air.
Yes.
It's about $270. You can move it around. It links into your Wi-Fi, and it will track carbon dioxide, microfines to PM 2.5, humidity. Microfines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what does Peter use that when they're doing their research? When he sets it in bedrooms and different.
Yes,
levels?
exactly.
Oh,
So I don't think it's that particular unit, but this is the unit that Efficiency Vermont sent me to. So, and we're using them right now in a couple of
Ryan
houses.
just used to use a $4,000.
Oh, that was
instrument and
hilarious.
everything. Yeah, and it's like the old infrared cameras that you had to have a backpack for. Now you have this, and so but now this other one is a nice GUI interface. It looks like an alarm clock, and it just shows a lot of different.
Does it do radon too?
It does not do radon. You should be testing for radon
Yes.
at any point. Well, actually, they're not very expensive. It's like
I think I've had it down here.
$125.
I think I'm fine.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
and your 0.4 is or 4 microcuries per liter is the acceptable level. Changing the air tightness of your house means you should retest,
Yes.
right? Because of that.
Right.
But so that's an important
But
thing
you'll
to
have
keep in mind.
stagnant air.
Yeah, you're going to
places
changing
you
the
couldn't have
way it
before.
works.
Right.
Yeah.
So does it do CO2 and carbon monoxide?
So it doesn't do VOCs directly, but there
Okay.
is a calculation that does inside taking CO2 and equating that to VOCs. VOCs are difficult because VOCs are not one thing. It's like 100 different
yeah.
things. So when you're talking, exactly.
There's bad VOCs, farts, and
Yeah.
there's good VOCs, bacon.
There you
Frying
go.
Bacon.
And bacon farts are kind of neutral.
Don't cross the streams. Don't cross the streams.
But so we're telling all of our customers who have indoor air questions, just get one of these. You can put it in one bedroom for a week and see how it works. You can leave the door to the bedroom open at night and see what that does. Close during the night, do a couple of tests, and really build an understanding of how your building is operating before the work is done and then after the work is done. And then you can,
Let other people
lend
use
it to a friend,
Yeah.
a
Family
neighbor.
members, whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing, it could be a non-starter just from the building perspective, is the whole thing of where this house sits, because the story you told us originally, the first farmhouse, is where it sits. Maybe it's on the historic register, you would know this, or if the zoning requirements, because you're changing the outside of the building. And so you want to make sure you get some of those things in place too, just to see what hoops you're going to have to jump through.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So check, and this will be in the report as well, check the zoning. Find out if you can go that
Yes.
way 10 inches, because you probably will want to not just change this, but you might want to
Roof line.
extend your roof line to capture that. And so don't do your soffit work until you've made a decision about that, because those two things will be paired.
So if we're going out 5 inches, what about trim? Like window trim on that?
Yeah,
That's gonna be
all
a
of
pain
it.
in the
Extension
ass.
jams.
Extension jams and
Extension jams?
She knows all that stuff.
No.
No?
so I put 6 inches of polyiso
So it's
on the
really just
outside of
something
my
you
house.
screw on?
Learn.
Yeah, well, we
You build a box
Yep.
of the window trim, and then that can be inserted into that opening that you have now, and then you have the trim that goes on the
It's
face
just
of
like
that.
Damien's place.
Yeah.
Like the window boxes we use at my house.
Yeah.
yeah. So you're building a buck.
But you leave
To
the
the
window
outside.
where it is.
Yep.
Yes.
You don't have to do anything with that.
No.
Just build
It's just a
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we did that on my house in 2012, so almost 10 years ago. And one of my windows blew out a number of years ago. It was all fogged up. So I ordered a brand new window. So in a couple of weeks, when those windows come in, we get to see what the swap out of the window is from the inside, right? Because the buck is set up to the
Well, I was gonna say, like, then it's gonna look funny. It looks like your window's gonna be deep inside of a window box.
But cats love it.
My,
No,
Well, they'd be on the outside,
Yes.
wouldn't it?
And
you do get used to it.
And I don't have a problem with it. I don't look at it and go, oh gee, my windows are really inset really deeply. Actually, it increases it decreases the cooling because it gives you some solar
but you
shading.
do need to drip it. You need to.
Oh, you
Yes.
need drip edge.
Yes,
You need
like a
you
2
need
degree
yeah,
at least.
That's
absolutely.
not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And we can work on details with you guys if you go that direction because we've got a lot of experience.
Then you got
It
to
sounds like either way we'd have to go that direction based on the two.
If you're
things we're
adding
talking about.
if you're adding to the outside in any way, you need to take every window and bump
And
them
then
out.
if you're extending the eaves and the rakes on the outside of the building to overcome the thickness of the wall, that increase, then you look at the fact of, okay, those slopes that aren't done. Do
Yeah.
I then take things back on the roof and address those appropriately at that time instead of calling it good and then saying, why didn't I? You know, so
Right.
this is comprehensive. There's no
Yeah.
two ways about it.
So
No, definitely. And it would be cool to, I think, what I should also probably do is share the report you guys give me with the lead folks, because I'm already on an extension with them.
Yep.
I told
And
them
say
I'd
I'm
have-
working on it.
Right, and like,
Right.
you know, even show them the solutions that we're coming up with that are
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more robust than what they had in mind of me going out there scraping, collecting, and repainting.
Yeah.
It's actually faster and safer to pull all the siding off.
It is.
Absolutely.
I just can't get my head
Why?
around that.
Yeah.
But,
Because first of all, how long are you going to be out there scraping, getting lead dust in the air? Even
Oh, I thought
The-
you meant
the
the
ass-
solution of just tacking stuff onto it.
yeah,
I thought you were
right,
saying
yeah.
no, we're talking
No.
about encapsulating the possibility.
Right. So that if you're
encapsulating is the best.
encapsulating is the fastest for sure. The best is something
Performance-wise.
I have no idea what the future holds for the lead that's in there. Right. When I was retrofitting my house, I ripped all the lead out. It's just how I felt. I went all the way back down to the studs. I went
Never
back.
comes up again.
It's gone.
Right.
So there's never a question. If that lead is still in there, there's a chance that at some point some kid will get at it, right? That's why I like going back down. Now, yes, it is. I don't know. Let's think about that. If we have the sawtooth of the clapboards, and you're filling that with some kind of thing before you put that on, so you don't have a hole. What material are you using for that? How long does that take? Right? Is it easier just to rip everything off and go with a membrane and right onto?
I'm still saying to get the thermal connectivity for the assembly, the siding needs to come off, and that's the easiest way because then you can open up the bottoms and the tops and make sure you got
Yep.
the connection.
Yep. Yeah. That's not a fun story, but it
There's
is.
a lot less space too, as far as extending.
Right.
The wall.
And if you don't have by the way, you can't do it as an individual person because of the agreement maybe that you signed and that you have a tenant, but you can start your own company. Or if you have a company, you hire,
And
you
she's
know,
lead
that
certified.
RRP certified and just do it like that. That's tent the side of the building, get everything pulled off, get it properly removed.
Her price just went up.
Yeah.
Well, it's faster to take it off than it is to scrape it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
That's where I was
And-
going
and-
with that. Yeah.
And less lead gets in the air too.
So,
that way.
correct me if I'm wrong. I like all this that we're talking about. I think the first thing is he's got to deal with this lead issue.
Yep.
So he needs to solve that, and he'd like to solve it, I think, in a way that from there he can grow, organically and cover all the other issues we've talked about. If
Yeah,
he wants.
yeah.
If he's got
But I
the
think
money.
first-
This is priority
Zoning
because the
first,
state's on you. I get
Zoning
it.
first, and the architectural
Yeah.
preservation. Let's know where you are.
Start there.
That helps the considerations on how to deal with the lead most
Right.
appropriately.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's first.
So that was the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us for House Calls Vermont. Please remember, if you have a question about a DIY project you're doing or a renovation that you're doing, if you've hired a builder to do a renovation on your house and you have questions about that and want to check it with us, if you have a basement renovation, a crawl space renovation, you're repairing your roof, you're changing your shingles, and you have cathedral ceilings, you're thinking about changing windows, you've got questions about indoor air quality, These are all questions we want to answer. So give us a call on Tuesday evenings at 1-802-200-2550 in order to talk to us directly, or send us an email at housecallsvt@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to get back in touch with you. So until next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. on our YouTube channel. If you can't find the YouTube channel, just go into your browser, type in YouTube, House Calls Vermont, and that should bring up our page. I'd give you the actual address, but it's this mess of numbers and letters, so that's kind of hard to make sure you get it right. But if you just do a search on House Calls Vermont YouTube, then our site should pop up. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, have a good rest of your day.